Welcome, everyone, to Figure Drawing Basics, part 58 of Art Lounge Alley. I'm your host. I'm going to start the stream in just a minute. But first, I want to introduce newcomers to Patreon. My Patreon page. Here it is, kind of blown up from last night's stream when I was playing Counterfeit. So just give me a second. I'm going to adjust it to size. All right, here we go. It's more reasonable. So we got tier 1, official patron, $2 per month. Get access to a Discord server. It's a place for everybody to come together, chat with one another about art, about movies, about games, about philosophy, or books that you're reading, whatever it is, really. The options are limitless. There aren't any real limits to the topics you guys can discuss, as long as it's considerate to one another. Next we got, and you also get your patron name listed in the credits. So once you guys start pledging to these tiers, I'm going to start doing credit at the end of the stream, and I will show your name as a way of saying thank you for keeping the stream going. We got the next one, which is tier 2 all access patron. This is where you guys get access to all of my work. So for $5 per month, you get early access to finished pages and exclusive content, things that I'm not going to be posting to any other social media platform aside from Patreon. And you will also get all the previous tier benefits. Then we got tier 3, critique submission tier. This is an opportunity for you guys to get involved and be put on stream. You got to submit something that you're working on, and I will do a live critique and demonstration on ways you can improve your drawing, give you some pointers, tips and tricks, and such. I'll also promote your social media platform. So if you got more stuff cooking, want to get people involved more and check out your work, it's going to be a good opportunity for that as well. Then we got Kickstarter Patreon. And that's going to be every Friday from 8 until 10 p.m. And then we got Kickstarter Patreon, which is going to be Thursdays from 8 until 10 p.m. It's $25 per month, and you will get, the unique thing about this tier is that you will get a high resolution digital painting of you done live on stream. That's right, guys. For being a patron, for supporting the Art Lounge Alley, you will have a high resolution digital painting done of you. I encourage you guys to get creative and show your creativity. Wear masks, makeup, glasses, make expressive face expressions in the picture, hats, and accessories. They're all great. They'll make the stream more fun. They'll make the portrait look interesting. But it's not required. You could send me a simple photo of you from the head down to your chest, and I will start doing that high resolution digital painting, which I will send to you at the end for you to do as you will. Make it your profile photo. Send it to a loved one. You will also get all the previous tier benefits as well. Then we got tier 4, artist promotion, meant for intermediate or advanced artists, those who are creating content, for you guys to show off what you're really working on. Your ideas, your thoughts, your expression is going to be live on stream. There are some requirements there. It does require for you to submit a 5-minute video. That way you can present your art the way you'd like it to be, as long as it's within a 5-minute period, and it's open to all forms of art. So if you know anybody who's in any of these categories, they're looking to be part of an artistic community, or they just want to get some more exposure, introduce them to the Art Lounge Alley. It's a great opportunity to do that, as I do post regularly to all social media platforms, which I will be doing once you submit to this tier. I will be posting prior to the stream sneak peek of your work and who's going to be featured on the stream that day, as well as promoting your social media on stream prior to playing the video. So there's some things to read on here. Take your time, read through it. This Patreon page is available in the About section of the Twitch channel. It's all the way on the right-hand side, along with other social media platform links. So yeah, take your time, read it at your own pace, and if you got questions, ask away. I'm always happy to answer them. And finally, we got Tier 5 private tutoring, limited to 15 people, $65 per month. If you're looking to get personalized and private guidance, this tier's for you. After you send something that you're working on and that you want to improve, or if you're a total beginner, it's fine as well. You could send me anything that you're working on, and I will send you a 30-minute video every week. So 4 videos per month for $65 per month, where I give you guys input on what you can do, what you can improve, give you step-by-step instruction and live demonstration showing you where you can improve. And I will send you that PSD file that I'm going to be working on, so you can explore it at your own pace. I'm going to assign you guys homework as well, so that you could continue to build your skill, to have goals throughout the week until the next video shows up, and that way keeps you guys motivated to keep drawing. Excuse me. You'll also get a private Discord channel dedicated just for you. So all 15 of you will each get a private Discord channel, so that we can interact, and you could send me questions, you could leave me comments, you could leave me your progress, whatever it is that you're working on. If you want me to critique it, it's going to be there for you. And yeah, I will use that as well for the next video that I'm going to send you. So you get that plus all the previous tier benefits as well. There's some other benefits that you should read through on the Patreon page. So that's pretty much it, y'all. Not going to waste any more time. I am going to jump into today's stream from where I left off yesterday, which is doing some demonstrations of eyes, giving you guys a better idea and just showing you the 3 dimensions basically of that feature, that face feature. I think it's really important, just beyond being able to draw the lines, being able to get the detail that you're looking for. It's also important to understand it 3-dimensionally. It just allows you to construct it more accurately in your mind. And for, a lot of people, they don't realize that it is a thinking process. This is something that I've been talking about recently, more frequently, is this notion that a lot of people have when it comes to illustration or art, is that this is like miraculous thing. It's some sort of like unconscious almost skill or behavior, if you're thinking about like playing music or whatever else, and it's not true. There are some people who are very much predisposed to that, whether their parents were in some way artistic and it just kind of been passed down to them as well or not. They were just born with that understanding better than others. But that does not encompass what the art process is like or what it's really all about. The whole idea of it isn't to compete with somebody or to prove to somebody that you're able to do something at their pace or quicker or faster or whatever else. That's not the point of it. The point of art is to express yourself, to come up with ideas and create and inspire, and that isn't something that's time sensitive. In some ways, it's better that you take time to develop and develop your skill and come up with ideas than it is to just constantly try to pump out work. Not that I'm saying it's wrong. You could do all of that. I'm just saying it's not a necessity, and it's not a deal breaker. If you're not, let's say, incredibly good at the age of 10 or whatever, 8, it doesn't mean that it's a lost cause and you should never try to pursue it, which is what a lot of people think. Like, if you're not a prodigy, then it's not worth for you to pursue. And that's not the point. The people are missing the point, and they're more focused on popularity and more focused on fame than they are about the process itself and really enjoying what they're doing. So whether you're playing an instrument, you're enjoying playing the instrument and listening to the sounds and creating sounds and creating melodies and rhythms. That's what it's really about. And it comes to drawing, the same idea. You enjoy the process of drawing on paper. You enjoy the medium, whatever it is that you use, whether it's a brush or a pencil, or doing it digitally on a computer, and you like software. And you like the process on that software. It's really very much about that. So yeah, it's not just this, it's not supposed to be this just sit down and just mindlessly create like the most amazing piece of work. It is a thinking process as well. You do have to think about it. So understanding things three-dimensionally, this is where I was talking about originally, really helps speed that up. Speed up your skill and the ability to draw whatever it is that you're working on. And so I'm just going to do it right here real quick, these lines here, to just demonstrate that. These lines kind of give you a better idea of dimension, how things kind of have shape, so these lines kind of indicate that, the curvature. Obviously, you're not going to see that on a person's face, but again, this is just to give you a better understanding, and in your mind's eye, of how these planes, these shapes, these features kind of work with each other, on top of each other, in a sense. So just continuing a little bit more with this demonstration here. So the same process for everything, just to refresh your memory, and for those of you who are just tuning in for the very first time, I'm starting out with very light sketching. And that allows me to make some adjustments as I go. So for instance, the first time I drew the pupil, it was a little bit too big. But because it was a light sketch, I'm allowed to shrink it down without having any like permanent effect on the paper or the image that I'm working on. Doing a little cross hatching there to create some shadow. Ooh, and this is something that I haven't talked about for a little bit, which brings it to this. This is something that's very useful to have. You know, if you're an illustrator, if you're learning to draw, if you're a student, let's say, you're in high school or you're in college, have something like this with you at all times. You know, when you are sitting idly somewhere, you know, whether you're on transportation, you're sitting there, or you're like having lunch or whatever, and you got extra time, pull out this little sketchbook and do some exercises on there. You know, do some drawings, which cross-hatching reminded me of that exactly. And this is something that is present in my old sketchbook, which I can say now proudly because it is finished from all the pages. Actually, why not just show you guys? Every single page, front and back, is completely covered with drawing. Great way to use up your sketchbook. Great way to feel like you've really put in a lot of effort into your drawing. But the reason why I opened it up is specifically for... Where is it? I know it's in this vicinity somewhere. Where are you? There you go. I had it. All right. So this is it right here. Yeah, just be able to practice all these things. Like, for example, practicing your shading. You know, practicing holding the pencil lightly and going from light to dark. Practicing your highlights, midtones, and shadows. And making sure that you have a very gradual transition from each tone to the next, as you can see here. Whereas, for instance, here, this is a very common example of what people do when they're practicing it and not really paying attention to it and trying to just speed through the process. You could see the distinction between each tone, highlight, midtone, and shadows here, and that's something you want to avoid. It's okay if you start out this way and then you gradually try to blend the tones together. But try to work your way up to just being able to do it from the get-go, starting out really light. And then gradually adding more and more pressure. And not only are you practicing your shadowing technique or your shading technique, you're also gaining more control over the pencil. You know, you're teaching yourself to really pay attention to the pressure, to how you're holding the pencil. And also, it's easier to keep in mind these three fundamental parts of drawing, which is drawing lightly, not pressing too hard, not holding the pencil all the way close to the tip. You know, these exercises are kind of mindless. You don't really have to do much there. You have to think about much other than these three things as you're doing it. It's a perfect opportunity to practice cross-hatching, you know, getting better and better at that. And once again, it's the same idea as this exercise here. You're able to gain more control over your lines, for example, making them straighter, doing them faster, gaining more control over the pencil, you know, how hard you're pressing, that sort of thing. And it's kind of fun, you know. You aren't really it is mindless, and you're just kind of sitting there, and you could think about something else even, but all along you're practicing, you're improving your skill, and your line work and your control over the pencil, and also keeping in mind these very important foundational ideas that I was mentioning: keeping it light, not holding the pencil too close to the tip. That, I just think holding it too close to the tip, I think, kind of reflects into your work eventually, you know, where you tend to really start nitpicking little details, and it kind of obstructs your vision of the entire page or whatever it is that you're working on, and just kind of focuses on this little section. And also, if you pay attention to the light source, for example, if you have a good light source, if it's positioned right, then you avoid creating shadows that block your vision of what's going on. Whereas, let's say if you have it over here, you know, notice how it's creating more of a shadow. It's kind of obstructing your vision of what's going on. So that's a really important thing. It really changes the experience of drawing traditionally. So that's something to look out for. And holding it at a distance, you avoid that as well. You really get a good scope of what's going on. So when you are drawing, let's say, this part of the body, you're able to compare and say, okay, well, you know, it makes sense. The width of it makes sense to the head. You know, I'm not drawing the width of the body way too wide. You know, so you could reference other things that are going on in your drawing by not holding the pencil too close and obstructing your vision of it. So that's the benefit I see on it. Also, you have a better range of motion, you know, as opposed to this. You know, if you want to, you want to travel quickly around the page, this becomes a little bit more handwork in a sense, whereas this allows you to do the same exact amount and in a more of a flowing kind of process, I want to say. So that's what I see the benefit of it is. I see a lot of people who do draw by holding the pencil very close to the tip, and they produce great work. You know, it's just really a matter of you trying to figure out what works for you best, what makes you enjoy the process more, and what gives you good results. So for me personally, I really enjoy that about that. So that's why I'm pushing for you guys to try that out as well. So yeah, just 3 things keeping in mind: drawing lightly, not holding a pencil too close to the tip, keeping a distance from the tip of the pencil, not pressing hard, you know, because again, that becomes a very rigid process, and you want to avoid that, especially in the beginning when you're just sketching things out and you're not really sure exactly of everything, all the placements, the proportion, the size of things. You're still kind of testing things. So in that stage, you definitely want to avoid pressing hard and having a very defined lines. So it also helps with that when you're holding it at a distance. You know, there's a bit of a loose feel, and people tend to hold it too close to the tip for the purpose of having more control, right? If you hold it too close, if you hold it much closer, you really have more control over the tip of the pencil and the lines that you're making. But you can gain that same level of control and confidence in the lines that you make by just practicing doing it from a distance as well. But yeah, it ends up reflecting an entire drawing where you get so technical and get really rigid and start really playing around with details, as opposed to just kind of quickly working through things and giving things shape and expression, body language, and all that other stuff. But yeah, these exercises, you know, really help with that. And here is another exercise: being able to practice your shadows and your technique, your shading technique on an object. So you got 2 objects here. We got the circle and we got the cylinder. Cylinder obviously being a really important shape because it is pretty much. It's the entire body is comprised of a cylinder shape. For the most part, obviously the head, not so much. But the torso even, that's a giant cup. I'd want to say the arms, obviously, the legs, even the hip area in some ways is a cylinder shape as well. So it's a very important one, and it's a good opportunity for you to practice these shading techniques on these basic shapes if you get bored. This is what this is great for. You could do all those things on here. You could do that on a train. It's very mobile in a sense. It's light. There aren't that many pages. I would put like duct tape on here, on the cover all around, to give it a thicker cover, because if you're going to be carrying it around, if it's going to be in your pocket, let's say, or if it's going to be in your book bag and you're going to be using it very often, the cover, it's pretty flimsy. It's going to get used up very quickly, or it's going to get ripped up very quickly. So that duct tape really allows it to stick on there. You could do another one down the middle here to make sure that the book itself sticks to it. I found it to be pretty useful. It helped maintain the cover longer. I'm not advertising only this sketchbook, but I will say it's excellent quality because it's thick. It's thick enough if you were to, let's say, do some inking on here, it wouldn't seep through to the other side. It's not incredibly smooth, it's not a slick sort of cover, and it's not incredibly coarse where it grinds your pencil and makes your lines jaggedy. It's right in the middle. It's pretty great. I do enjoy the quality of this paper. It's Crescent, but check it out for yourself. If you go to a art store that's nearby you, which I highly encourage you guys to support, you can bring a pencil with you and just try out the pages on there and see how you like the feeling of the paper. Is the paper too coarse? Is it too slick? And I think most places still probably have sample ones, like sample books or sample pages, just paper, for the sketchbook that you're interested in, to just try it out and see how you like it. And if not, you might want to ask like people who work there, like, hey, can I try this out and see what the paper is like? Almost sure most of them will say yes, or they'll show, or they'll point at a sample somewhere or something and give you a better idea of it. But yeah, great opportunity for you to do more drawing and practice stuff when you're not at home, when you're not in the best drawing setting. So anyway, so cross-hatching on the eye really sent me into this review, because it has been a while. I used to start out the introduction prior to the Patreon page by talking about these basic things you guys can do to improve your drawing. when I was younger, I used to see people do cross hatching and just watch them draw, and I would always be amazed at like the confidence in their lines and just how neat. I want to say I don't know if that's really the word to describe it, but their pencil strokes were very neat, very accurate, and just showed a lot of confidence in them. And I think that the best way to achieve it is that, just continuously drawing, doing all those little exercises that I was talking about to develop a much closer, more intimate relationship with the pencil that you're using, so that you really could get comfortable with it more, get comfortable with its ability, with how it feels. And the more that happens, naturally, your lines become more and more confident. You're wielding the pencil with greater understanding. And that's an excellent way to get there. And for those of you who haven't checked out the first stream of Art Lounge Alley, when it was called Art Lounge still, I talk about, or I created a short video about John Buscema, talking about his life and his journey to becoming an amazing illustrator and working for Marvel and creating all the Marvel characters and stories, as well as Conan the Barbarian. But in that video, just talking about his process and getting insight into John Buscema, there is a bit about his brother talking about him, Sal Buscema, and how much John Buscema drew. He just loved doing it. He was always doing it. So in the words of Sal Buscema, he was saying, he was basically eating, breathing, and sleeping, thinking about drawing, or he was just always about drawing. Basically, that's what he was getting at. He would eat, sleep, and breathe drawing. So having that little sketchbook around is a perfect way to push yourself in that direction as well. If you really want to see yourself improve. And almost anybody, you would think that, I know there's some of you who are just like, oh, I just know how to draw stick figures, or it's just not coming out good. But you have to understand that just the same way as when you were first learning to read, when you first recited the alphabet, were you able to pick up any book and just read all of it, understand all the words, pronunciate all the words properly, understand their meaning and all that stuff? No, right? That was a gradual process. You had to first really learn the alphabet, recite all the letters, understand it, gradually read more simple books until you were more familiar with words. So it's the same process. It's the same idea. It's a gradual process, and the more often you do it, the better you're going to get. So again, shed your notion that if you don't sit down and immediately get it right within a couple of days, then it's not worth pursuing. It's a terrible way of looking at learning. You just got to stick to it. You got to dedicate yourself and show the same level of determination you had when you were learning to read, when you were learning that process. If not more, that's always welcome. The more dedication and effort you put into it, the more rewarding it'll get day by day. And again, remember, it's more about the drawing than it is about, I want to be able to just create immediately amazing drawings. Now, moving on to noses. It's a short chapter. It's a short amount of work that I did for the eye. But I think a lot of it, again, it has to do with practice. Just draw these features as much as possible. There's nothing that I can describe to you that's going to have you internalize it visually, as well as automatically make your hand be able to draw these lines. Drawing isn't just about understanding something mentally, or even with your imagination. Like if you had a really good understanding of what the eye is in your mind's eye, you can picture it very well. Your hand has to be trained to be able to make those lines. It's like exercising. When you go to a gym, you can't expect yourself to I understand how this workout machine is or what you're supposed to do, and then expecting to sit down and lift like the heaviest weight ever. No, you got to first warm yourself up. You got to get your muscles ready gradually to be able to lift those kind of weights. Your muscles have to be able to withstand that. So it's the same idea here. You could understand how the eye works, or how it is visually, but it's another thing for your muscles and your hand to be able to create these lines, for your hand-eye coordination to be trained well enough to follow what you see if you're looking at something, let's say as a reference, or what you're imagining. So even though you could imagine something in real high detail, it's another thing to be able to sync your mind's eye with your hand, and for your hand to have the muscle flexibility to be able to create those lines. And all that comes from practice. All that comes from sitting down and just drawing things over and over and over again, until it becomes more in sync, until your hand-eye coordination is more in sync, until your hand is more flexible to be able to create those lines. Your hand has to listen to what your eye is seeing and what your mind is telling it to do. So that just comes with time. That comes with time. That comes with training. So yeah, even though this is a brief kind of overview of the eye, the real point is for you to be inspired to sit down and practice this yourself. I will be uploading a lot of the stuff today, actually. Tonight I'm going to be uploading a lot of these images, a lot of these pages on Patreon for you guys to be able to download and draw from them. Because I know from personal experience, especially when I was younger and I was learning, I was like, well, where do I draw all this from? I think for me it was a little bit different because internet wasn't so loaded with information and opportunities and pages and all that stuff. Or I didn't have access to the books that I wanted, or I didn't even know what kind of books to buy in order to do that. And a lot of that is going to be with you going to a shop, to a bookshop. If you got one near you, if there's one that's that you can get to, that you could travel to, go to one, find a section for books, for drawing books, for anatomy books, and flip through and see which ones you really like, what really gravitates towards you, and buy that book and draw from it as much as possible, as often as possible. Have that be your go-to when you're just kind of like stumped and you don't know what to draw, or you're just like, nothing is coming to me. A lot of times what I find happens is I might if I'm thinking about something like, well, what do I draw? Or I don't know what to draw, or I don't feel inspired. The more I tend to think about it or analyze it or, figure it out, the more complicated it gets to be motivated, for instance. And then there are days where it's the complete opposite. But in order to fight that, and prevent yourself from having to rely on this one magical day that's going to come where you feel really inspired, you just draw. You don't rationalize it. You don't think about it. You're not like, oh, well, maybe tomorrow I'm going to feel inspired. You just sit down and you draw. And inspiration starts to kick in. You start to feel, that motivation or, that desire to just improve and get better. So, in the words of Shia LaBeouf from one of my streams where he does like a little motivational speech, just do it. Just do it. Don't even think about it. Don't try to rationalize or motivate. Just sit down and mindlessly get your sketchbook out, get your pencil out, and just do it. And you'll see that the inspiration will start to pour in and the motivation will start to pour in. You'll remember, oh, okay, I really like doing this. This is fun. This is interesting. You get yourself a sketchbook, or not a sketchbook, you get yourself a book, and even better. Now you don't have to sit there and be like, what do I draw? Can I even draw, or whatever, where that starts to pour in. No, you just sit down and you practice from that and warm up. It's a great way to warm up. You're doing all these things that are there for you. You just have to copy them. You have to practice and think about them, understand them. But yeah, as I mentioned, I'm going to be uploading these pages with these drawings on there. Starting with tier 2, you guys can have access to all of them. You could download them. I'm going to continuously upload stuff on there for you guys to practice with. Now, all right, talking about all that, but getting back to this drawing here, what you're seeing right here, obviously a nose. And it's a very important feature on the face. It is the most protruding part of the face. There's nothing else that really jots out as much as the nose does on the face. And it comes in various sizes and shapes. So there isn't really any hard rule saying, okay, this is how you draw a nose. You just have to remember a couple of couple of ideas here and there, and that one of them being that there is always an angle to the nostril and the tip of the nose. Like, it's never on the same line. So for example, here I'm going to draw a straight line, and as you can see, the nostril doesn't touch that straight line. The tip of the nose is a little bit longer, and it's better explained in profile. So I drew these lines here to indicate, you see how it is this angle here. Tip of the nose being the lower point, nostril being higher. I'm gonna do another one of a different nose shape. Once again, different shape, right? The nostril's a little bit bigger. The nose has a little bit of a different shape to it. But the rule still remains to be the same. The tip of the nose is at a lower point than the nostril, just like in this example here. As I mentioned, you draw a line going straight from the tip of the nose, and you'll see that the nostril is higher than that line. Can do another one here. Same idea. And do the last one. Gnarly looking nose. For some reason, I'm thinking like a Noam Chomsky nose. This one's fun to draw. But same idea. I mean, it's a little bit more, it's higher up than the other ones. The nostril, that is higher up in comparison to the tip of the nose. But as you can see, no hard rules aside from this one, and it does vary. I think this is as close as it comes. This example right here is as close as it comes to actually being on the same line almost, but still at an angle. And with that said, y'all, I am gonna end the stream for Drawing Basics. I'm gonna take a quick little break, 5-minute break, and I will be back for the project stream, which I'm excited to get back into. So stick around. I'll be back in 5 minutes.